Howdy folks, Jimmy here, aka Palette of the Dead. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the latest issue of Warhammer 40k Imperium magazine. As per usual with all these videos, if you like them, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course drop a comment down below. I love hearing back from you guys, and it goes a massive way to help the channel too. Now, this week we're on issue 60 of Imperium magazine, and we get our other half to the Primaris Outriders that we received the smaller sprue to last week. So these two sprues combined will give you your free Primaris Outriders motorbike riding fast attack units from the Space Marine good old section of the collection, and yeah, pretty good. They're not too bad. They're pretty decent units to have. They'll come in handy, I'm sure, if you're a Space Marine player, and yeah, pretty good. So fairly straightforward. You're not going to go wrong with it, I doubt. So have at it, enjoy, and yeah, we're not bad units. Now, with us being on issue 60, we are of course three quarters of the way through the original 80 issues. So 20 issues left from the original 80, and apparently, of course, if you've missed it already, the news is they have extended the collection by 10 issues. No idea what's going to come with those 10 issues, but hopefully some really cool stuff, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. But for now, let's jump into this week's issue. So we are greeted by one of the other major chapters from the Space Marines, and this is the Grey Knights, the secretive demon hunters. So the Grey Knights are a chapter like no other, created to combat the threat of warp-spawn terrors. They are a brotherhood of psychers trained to fight demons and keep the terrible knowledge of the existence of these malefic creatures from the citizens of the Imperium, regardless of the cost in innocent lives. So, the Grey Knights were actually in fact founded in the dying days of the Horus Heresy by the Emperor with the assistance of his most loyal servant, MacLeod the Sigillite. So, the first of the Grey Knights were 8 in total, each a Space Marine, peerless in their dedication to the Imperium, aware of the dangers posed by the warp and possessed of great psychic power. So, the Grey Knights form humanity's greatest weapon against its direst threat, demons, murderous sentences wrought from pure chaos. So, the Grey Knights, pretty cool chapter from the Space Marines. They are obviously very focused on their demon hunting, and they have a very unique war gear as well. So they have a psy cannon, they carry psych out grenades, which sound fantastic, and they also do like a nice sword as well. So this is the Nemesis Force sword, when I can learn to speak. Really cool looking weapon, in all honesty. I do kind of like it. They also reside on the Saturn's moon of Titan, where their fortress monastery is, and it stands amid frozen landscape of cryovolcanoes, oceans of liquid methane, and jagged spurs of black rock. And the citadel of Titan has stood for thousands of years, protected by a vast network of orbital gun platforms, shield arrays, and other far stranger psychic technologies that keep its presence a secret. So, a little bit more secretive of one of the Space Marine chapters, but they are literally dedicated to facing up against demons and making sure chaos doesn't intrude in humanity. So really cool stuff, and I must admit I do kind of like them. They are pretty cool as well, so happy days. And then we get information about one of the other sections of the Space Marines, which is the Armoury. A chapter's Armoury is the location where the great majority of its armoured vehicles, gunships, weapons and war gear are maintained and tended to between battles. The Armoury itself is both a branch of the chapter's hierarchy and a physical location. Headed by strange and knowledgeable masters of the Forge, the chapter's tech marines all belong to the Armoury and are responsible for thousands of serfs and servitors. Their task is to ensure that the chapter's war gear and weaponry are repaired and their machine spirits soothed so that they are ready to face the enemy in battle. So Tech Marines are Space Marines that generally have these extra bits of gear on their back, and they also do have a lot of information, and they learn the lore of the Machine God, so very close to the Adeptus Mechanicus in a lot of ways, and yeah, really cool stuff, and pretty interesting with them as well. They do have their own special gear that they sometimes will carry, including servo skulls, which can be used for targeting and also diagnosing any damage to machines and other bits and pieces as well. They'll have the servo arm on their backpack, which can be used as an actual melee weapon itself on a lot of times, as well as using it to hold power tools and utilise a variety of power tools as well. And they do also have other bits and pieces they can carry, so really cool stuff, and kind of a bit different as well. They also utilise servitors. So servitors are lobotomised humans fused with cybernetic components. Though they are often VAT grown, some criminals, and particularly those who have committed tech heresy or otherwise violated the laws of the Adeptus Mechanicus, are condemned to become servitors. So the Tech Marines make use of servitors to undertake many of the simple manual duties required in order for the armory to function. So there you go. A little bit of a weird one with having lobotomized humans kind of being used as your servitors. It is what it is, but yeah, really cool stuff, and kind of a bit more information about them is quite interesting as well. Then we move on. We have our paint guide for the Space Marine Outriders. So last week we had our how to build guide, so follow that guide to get all your 3 riders built up, and then if you're following the painting guide, this will show you how to get going with it. Fairly simple, in all honesty. My advice would be to do what they've done and make sure you don't fully push down the actual model into the little slots on the base, so then you can get your Astro Granite if you're using Astro Granite, or Sterling Mud if you're using Sterling Mud, or whatever texture you're using on your bases, you can get it under the wheel a little bit better. Personally, my opinion is do your base separate from your vehicle and stuff like that, and then stick it down with it. Well, you don't really need to stick it, as long as you don't cover them holes, you're absolutely fine. You should be able to just push it in and it will stay rigid there and be pretty absolutely fine. At least then it gives you a chance to dry brush if you're dry brushing over that texture paint, and gets it a nice colour. Your choice though. Anyway, so if you're following the paint guide, MacLeod Blue, Lead Belcher, some Abaddon Black on your tyres and other sections like the handlebars, and even the in between the armour on the Space Marines themselves, using your Retributor armour for the gold sections, Rune Lord Brass if you want to, over things like the got an exhaust cover, and much more. And yeah, you can get some really nice looks out of all of it. Entirely up to you if you want to follow this guide, of course. Otherwise, just make it fit in with the current Space Marines you're doing, whatever chapter you're doing, and it will work. So really good stuff. And as you go over, you'll end up doing all your your good old shades. So using your Norn Oil or Agrax Earth shade if you want to, over different sections, and even your Reichland Flesh shade, you can get some really good looks out of all of it. And yeah, when you're done, it is going to work very nice, and it's going to look pretty cool as well. If you are going to use your gloss as well, it does work very well over certain sections. You can make it kind of stand out, especially if you're doing your edge highlighting after the fact, especially of things like your good old exhaust cover as well. So you're gonna want, if you want to make it look like it's had a bit of heat going through it, good old Cryptek armor shade, if you kind of just draw it towards that one end, it darkens it down and makes it look a lot better. So really cool stuff. And then of course all your other bits and pieces, like including painting the faces, helmets, and much more. Of course, with your captain for your brother sergeant, should I say, they will be carrying a red helmet, and that helmet is meant to be on the side as well. So they will be having one without the helmet on the head, because, you know, obviously they want to be shot in the head. But yeah, anyway, when you're done, they will look something like that. Pretty decent, but not bad. I do kind of like them, even with the ultramarine boring blue colour scheme, but otherwise the chapter of your choice. Then we move on, we have more faction rules. So these are Space Marine rules, and kind of giving a bit more to this, and more of our advanced rules as we go through with Space Marines, and including some of their tutorial, including half range, not moved, and biker or terminators, depending on which you're using and how their firepower can change as well. And you also get your data sheet for the Outrider squad as well now. So with these, pretty cool, definitely worth having a nosy through and keeping an eye on. But otherwise, you can get going with all of it. So these are of course a fast attack unit, so you can utilise them how you want, and you'll have a bit of fun with it, I'm sure. Then on to this week's battle. Our mission is, of course, to utilise your forces, so you're using 50 power. So depending on what your power choices you're using, you can pick out whatever you want. So if you're using your Overlord, you can use 2 troop choices, and that should bring you up to 50 power. And then for your Imperium, you'll be utilising instead, which works out to 50 if you go through it all properly, Canoness, 10 battle systems, 5 Seraphim, 1 other troop choice as well. Yeah, really cool stuff, and kind of interesting as well, a bit different to do. Entirely up to you. It's capture the area, which is in the middle, and to get your victory points. Have at it, bit of fun, 5 rounds, enjoy. And then moving on, next week, issue 61, we get our 3rd and final Toonblade. Yeah, you know, not the best unit in the world, but you know, finishes that bit off, doesn't it? 62, gonna be a little bit boring. 2 paints, yeah, could be better, but it is what it is. But yeah, otherwise, collection is going really well. I'm enjoying it. I hope you are too. What are your thoughts? Leave them down below. But yeah, for now, thank you very much, and I'll see you sometime soon. Bye bye now.